What we want to do in stage 5 is add some tags and element IDs so that we can attach a CSS style sheet and add some styles and formatting to our text document. So we have added our headings and subheadings, we've added block quote, some semantic markup, we've added the table, and now you want to use your insert panel. If you don't see that, go to Window and then look for the insert panel and select it. I'm going to select it here on the right of my screen, and then I want to select the special characters and typography heading with the block quote, and then in the design pane, and then in my insert panel using HTML, I want to select the header tag. And so once you click on that, you want to make sure that you insert with wrapping around the selection, so it's going to wrap those tags around whatever you have selected. We're not going to add a class or ID selector at this point. Click OK, and you'll see a frame around it, and in the code view, now you will see the header tags before and after that H1 and the block quote text. Then select the next subheading. So you want to click the quotes and related characters and drag all the way down to include the resources paragraph ending at w3schools.com. So we want to select everything except for our unordered list here. That's going to be our navigation. Click on the section in your insert panel, wrap around the selection again, and click OK. And then you'll see in the code pane the section tag has been added to that entire section with the closing tag after that ordered list for the resources section. Then we want to select that unordered list here. That's going to be our navigation. So go back to the insert panel and now select navigation, wrap around the selection again and click OK. And now we've added the navigation tag around that area. And I want to just go ahead, I'm going to undo that because I want to make sure that I include the unordered list tags and then select my navigation tags and wrap around that entire selection. So if you look in the code view, the navigation tag is wrapping around my the entire unordered list. Then go down back to design view and select your footer text against the clock text, and then type the footer under image tag, wrap around that selection, click OK. And now the footer tags are added around that paragraph, and you can check that in the code view. So let's just review and make sure we have everything selected correctly. So we have our header selection, then we've got the section tags, and then we scroll down, you have the navigation tag, check the code, and then the footer tag. So this is important because once we add our CSS style sheet, it's going to adopt styles to those tags that we have added here and formatted. Go ahead and save your file, and now go to CSS Designer panel, and if you don't see that, go to Window in your Apple menu and select CSS Designer, and then we're going to attach our style sheet. So click on the plus button and make sure that all is selected, and then click on the plus button under Sources, and then attach your existing CSS style sheet. So we have not had to create one at this point, it's already been created for us. In the next exercise, the next chapter, you'll learn how to create a new CSS file. So for now, we're going to attach an existing one that's already been created. And once you click on that, you can then browse to your file. So you want to look in your chapter folder and then look for that CSS style sheet. So I'm going to select my style sheet from against the clock and click open, and I want to add it as a link. Then click OK, and now it's been added. Now, the design view is not formatted correctly yet. I have this red background. You should have an image showing up. The block quote should be showing up in the header section, but I can't really read the text because of that red background. So I need to add an ID selector to fix that, to make the background of my section white instead of red. So because we added the section tags already, we can easily add that to our section tags. So with that section, I've got the section selected in the code view, in the design view as well, and then in the properties panel you'll see a section ID. So this is an ID selector that has been created, and if I click on it, you'll see that there is the excerpt gives you the option to select that. So if I select excerpt, it will add that excerpt ID to the entire section. And now I can see that white background showing up. So in the CSS Designer pane, you can see that there's an excerpt ID, and you know it's an ID selector if it has that hashtag symbol in front of it. And then I can look in my properties panel and click on show set, and I can see all the formatting that's already been created in the CSS style sheet. So I didn't have to create this time because it's already been created for me, but I can look at the properties. So you can see that this box width is at 750 pixels. The margins are set to auto. It has a padding of 15 pixels. You'll learn what all of that is in the next section, our next module. And then you can see that the background color has this background color attributed to it that's set to white. So now you can read it because it's adopted those styles to the excerpt ID selector. So it's very important to make sure that you have the section tags formatted correctly, and then you've selected the excerpt ID for that section. Now if we switch to live view, you can see what it's going to look like on the browser. So now everything should be readable. I have my block quote here in my header. So if you look at the code pane, within your header you have the title for H1, you have the block quote, you have the name and the citation, and then under your section ID you have the table, you have all those subheadings, and then if you scroll down to your navigation, in your code view, you've got the unordered list in your navigation, and then you have the footer. So I can scroll down in live view and look at my footer that's set to the footer styles from my CSS style sheet. So I can click on that style.css sheet and look at the formatting or the attributes for each tag. So that my body tag, my nav tag, the unordered list, the header, and so forth. So you'll learn how to create that in the next exercise, but this is just kind of FYI so you can see where all the styles are located. They're located on your style sheet that was created for you. So then I'm going to go back to my source code. That's the code for my current document. Now if you had that companion, so I'm going to switch back to design view. If you had typed in, instead of excerpts, you had typed in companion projects, I think it was. And then if I switch back to live view, I can see the companion projects is not really fitting on that navigation, and it messes up everything else. So in order to fix that, you could either just change it to excerpts, or if you wanted to fix the companion projects text because it's longer, I can use my styles. So in my tag selector here, I can select on navigation and then go to CSS Designer panel, and I want to select my navigation unordered list. And if I click on that selector, I can see that entire navigation selected, and then I can change that under the properties. So right now in the properties for the navigation unordered list, you can see the width is set to 950 pixels, margin set to auto. I can uncheck show set to add some formatting. So just checking show set shows you what's already been formatted. If I uncheck it, I can add or change formatting. So I'm going to click on the T icon to change the text, and then under font size, right now it's set to medium. I'm going to select small. Now all the text fits because I've changed it from the medium size to small. So that's a way that you can fix that, kind of like we did in the rentals exercise, so that everything fits in your navigation. Or you can just change the text to excerpts. So either way is fine for this exercise. And now we are complete with formatting. Then to complete stage 5, we just want to save and export this file. So I can go to File save, and I'm just going to save this as a different name because I've already saved this previously. So you can just do a regular save of your file, and then go to your files panel again and go to Manage Sites, and then you can export your currently selected site. So if you export it, here's where you can save it as the STE site file, and that file just saves the directory of where your settings are in your root folder so that I can easily open this up again. So when I check your files, I can just select your STE site file and then it will bring up that folder. I'll show you what that looks like. So since I've already saved it, I'm just going to save it as a different name here. And once you've saved that site file, go back to Manage Sites, and then now I can delete it. And I'm going to close these files so you can see how I can bring it up again. So going back to Manage Sites, let's say I'm checking your file, I can go to Import Site, and if you got your STE file saved in your root folder, I can just select that and open it, and then click Done, and then it'll open your root folder. So this is important. Make sure that you don't just export your site file and then turn that in. You have to turn in your entire root folder. So I'm going to go back to my desktop here and look at my file. So let's say this is your root folder. I have mine broken up in stages, but let me just use this as an example. So if this is your chapter folder, don't just, I'm going to move this, don't just submit this STE file, but select the entire root folder. So if I'm going to move this, I think this was the one I used, into my chapter folder here, you want to put your STE site file in your root folder with all your HTML files, your CSS style sheet, and your images folder. And then I can do a control right click or click on that gear to compress that folder as a zipped file, and then I can submit that entire zip folder on As You Learn on the course page. So again, don't just submit that STE site file and think you're done. That only gives me the settings. It does not allow me to open your entire website. So make sure you submit your entire root folder for your website with the STE site file in it. And if you don't submit the STE site file, I can still open up your file. What I would do in Dreamweaver when I go to Manage Sites is, instead of importing a site, I would just create a new site for you and give it a name and then select your root folder. But I must have your root folder in order to view your site. If you have any questions, let me know and we can meet in another Zoom video or we can share screen captures. I'm happy to help you with any questions or troubleshooting.